Hi, lovely and darling viewers. It's Jen here at Check Her Joy. Today I am reviewing American Royals by Katherine McGee. I listened to the audiobook for this, which is narrated by Brittany Pressley. So this is a young adult / new adult fiction. It's contemporary, but with like an alternate history where the U.S., instead of becoming a democracy, became a monarchy, with George Washington becoming the first king, and then like his nephew and his nephew's descendants becoming the royal family in the House of Washington. So this book is told from the perspectives of 4 women who are impacted by the monarchy. 2 of them are the royal princesses. One is a lady, the daughter of the Duke, and the other one is a complete commoner who is best friends with one of the princesses. It has romance elements to it, but I think it's mostly focusing on these women as they figure out where they fit in the world. They're at that age where they're like 17 to 23 and they're still figuring out who they are and what they're going to do with their lives, and like the people they're going to become. So the first and most important probably is Beatrice. She is the princess who is going to inherit the throne. She is the first woman to like inherit the royal throne on her own, become the ruling monarch. Her grandfather changed the rules so that the next ruling monarch is whoever the next eldest child is, regardless of gender. So before, if there was an older, the older child was a girl, she would be skipped over for younger relatives who are male. But Beatrice is going to be the first one to inherit just by being the oldest. She knows this from a very young age. She feels the weight of the crown on her already. She's very studious, very serious. She knows she's gonna have to lead and be like a good example. And she's also dealing with the expectations that her family wants for her, particularly her parents. And they're at this point where like she's graduated college and her family is like, you know what, you should start thinking about getting married now. And part of this book is her meeting all these suitors that her parents had picked out for her, all these like aristocrats who would make great future consorts, and telling her to like go date. So it's got like the feel of the selection series by Carrot Cass happening in it also. So I liked that plot line. But Beatrice is also one who is starting to feel the weight of like, we're in a country where everybody else gets to pick and decide what they want to be. Even her younger siblings have some ability to make decisions for themselves, and Beatrice doesn't. She's going to be queen, and she doesn't really have a say in that. The other royal that we hear from is Samantha. She is the next in line to the throne. She's actually one of a set of twins, but she's the eldest of them, so she's next in line. She is basically a free spirit and is kind of bucking the royal trends, whereas Beatrice is like, I'm going to be upright and upstanding and do what I'm supposed to. Sam is like, do I have to? And like skirting things and finding loopholes, much more of a I'm gonna have fun party princess kind of girl. She's also dealing with feelings of being like, she's extra, she's the spare. Her codename is literally the Sparrow because she is the Spare, and every time she hears security like talk about her, they refer to her as the Sparrow, and like she's over it. She's over being extra and unnecessary, so, and always being second to Beatrice. And she's trying to find her place in the world. Her father's trying to get her to think seriously about like what she's going to do. She's just graduated high school. She and her brother are taking a gap year, and they've been like touring the world, and they come back and her dad's like, okay, now take this seriously. Where are you going to college? What are you going to study? What are you going to do with your life? And she's just not enjoying that at all. We also have Jefferson, who is Sam's twin. We don't get a point of view from him, but he is definitely a crucial part of this family and the royalty. He's the only boy in the family, and so he's like the media's obsession. Like, the media is obsessed with Beatrice because she's going to inherit, but they're obsessed with Jefferson more so, with like his dating antics, and he's much more comfortable being in front of a camera. He and Samantha both are. So they're always in the tabloids, but he's also the only boy. And so like all these girls are fawning over the royal prince, and dreaming about dating Prince Jefferson. So he's kind of a free spirit also, but he's also much more like laid back. He's just going to take everything that comes at him and like and not sweat it at all. he basically is enjoying all the luxury and the great things that come with being a royal, but like it doesn't have the expectations that he needs to even act seriously. Like the press is so much more focused on like Samantha and Beatrice messing up that like Jefferson gets away with so much more stuff because he's the male and because he's not actually going to inherit the throne. And then there are two other girls that we hear from who are not actually members of the royal family. One is Daphne. She is a lady. I think her dad is a duke or something. She's definitely up there, like social status and the aristocracy. And she is Jefferson's ex. They had a very serious relationship for like 3 years. It was like, I'm going to marry the prince. And then Jefferson breaks up with her and her life kind of crumbles. And Daphne is not exactly dealing with this well. So she is kind of the press's darling. She, on paper, looks perfect to be the next princess, to be Jefferson's wife. She does all this work with charity. She does all the stuff that aristocrats are supposed to. She looks gorgeous. She has perfect manners. She does what she's instructed to do. She doesn't have a problem with being told, like, how a princess is supposed to act. So the press, the royal family, adore her. But she's also very conniving, and this becomes incredibly apparent when Jefferson breaks up with her, and her main goal is to just get Jefferson back. And all her actions from that point are just to get him back and keep him and to get the crown at all costs, while still maintaining the perfect press persona. And she's just the worst of the mean girls, basically. And because we're in her head and we're seeing her thought processes, it's even like worse. Because like if you were just watching it from the outside, you could give her like the benefit of the doubt. Some of the other characters are like, is that really what she's doing? But like being in her head, she is horrendous. She's got a ton of pressure on her, but most of it is like her putting it on herself. Like she's the one who decided she was going to date Jefferson and marry him. So totally spicing things up with all her plans and scheming. Bit like Gossip Girl going on there. And then the fourth main character we have is Nina, who is a complete commoner. One of her moms, like her moms are married to women couple, which is gorgeous. Nina's also Hispanic, so she's the only not white voice we're getting from this. And then she's also a commoner. So she has spent her life around the royal family. One of her moms works for the palace and was like the king's right-hand man, basically his assistant. And now she's got a job in one of the cabinets. So from the time that she was like 5 or something, she has been spending so much time with Samantha and Jefferson, especially Samantha. Like the first time Samantha saw her at the palace, she was like, ooh, a kid to play with, because they're 5. And then they just always kept hanging out. And then this year, while the two royals have been touring the world, Nina's been going to college and starting to have a life away from the royal family and starting to figure out what she wants to do on her own. I love Nina's perspective and like take on everything. She's like what we need to ground this story and make it so much more about like the people. But she's also kind of hiding the fact that she's hanging out with the royals all the time. So like her college friends don't know that she hangs out with the royals. They don't know this. They're like planning a watch party for one of the royal balls, and Nina's like, I can't go. But then she's like at the ball itself. So like crazy things are happening with that. And then she is also dating Jefferson throughout this book. It's a minor spoiler, but it's kind of alluded to in the synopsis. So I'm going to go with it. But she's dating Jefferson, and so she and Daphne are kind of butting heads because Daphne needs to get rid of Nina to date the prince again. And so we're getting a perspective of Jefferson from Nina, Daphne, and Samantha. And Beatrice a little bit, but we're mostly focused on Beatrice and Samantha's relationship as sisters. It's kind of weird that Beatrice is like, oh yeah, I have this brother, whatever, and doesn't seem to care about not being close to her brother the way she cares about not being close to her sister. So basically this is all just like family drama, like those great Shakespearean plays where everything is just like chaos. Total drama stuff happening here. Like the press is involved and there's money and there's lavish balls and like conniving and especially in Daphne's part, backstabbing each other and the royal romances. So this was a fun, relatively light read. I enjoyed it. It was a great summer pick. It definitely ends with kind of a cliffhanger moment, or like there's a resolution at the end of this book, but it's definitely gearing up for something much bigger to happen in the second book, which is coming out in the fall. And I am glad that we're like a few months away from that and not like a year away from that release at this point. I'm definitely going to be checking out book 2, basically. So, on the whole, this got 4 stars for me. Just like I felt there could have been more with exploring the consequences of the royal family. And like we get hints of like what being a monarchy has done to the Americas and to the rest of the world. Like there aren't revolutions happening in the rest of the world. France and Russia are still monarchies. They aren't other country, like they aren't having other political, there really aren't other political forms set up in this. It's mostly the rest of the world is also monarchies because we didn't have our revolution and people didn't like copy us. So that's something that's touched on. We don't really get to see it play out much more other than there are royal families and princes from these other countries. There's still a Dauphin in France. And we also just don't have much politics about what's happening in the US either. Beatrice isn't really, we're not seeing the world from her father's perspective. So we don't have like the intricate day-to-day, what happens when you're ruling a country parts of this. And there are things like that are kind of hinted on this. Like they made, at least there are 2 Native American indigenous like dukedoms that like are Native American lands that are also part of the American country. So that's kind of hinted at, but like we don't have repercussions for like slavery. We don't know if slavery got abolished. Like it's just kind of like there isn't slavery now, but we don't know how we got from like pre-colonial, there was slavery, to we don't have slavery in today's world. Because like up until the revolution, the point where King George says he's going to be king, like we have the same history. So we're like skimming over some major social, historical, economic things, or just like, don't worry about it in this book. So like, it's only a 4-star. Hopefully book 2 gets more into that. And you kind of just have to accept that you're not going to get too much into politics or like repercussions. And this is more a book about individuals in the royal family than like what consequences having a royal family would have on the entire United States. Yep. Okay, so there is my review for American Royals by Katherine McGee. I loved these stories and these individuals and these women. It's definitely feels very feminist and very female-centered. I loved getting into all their heads. Even in Daphne's head was interesting to like get into. Even though like I don't like her, but it was still intriguing to see where she's coming from. And she's definitely the type of person that you would expect to see hanging onto the royal family and trying to like latch onto them. So I enjoyed American Royals by Katherine McGee. Go check it out. Let me know in the comments below if you have read it, what you thought of it. It's very similar to the Selection series by Kara Cass and The Princess Diaries by Van Habit. Kind of Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. And like the Gossip Girl TV show. I haven't read the books, but like it was very like Daphne definitely felt like she should have been in that boarding school. So peace out. I love you all and keep reading. Bye.